I came back from my sister's funeral to find every piece of my life scattered across the front lawn. My clothes, my photo albums, even the quilt my mother sewed before she died, everything was there, under the afternoon sun like a yard sale of my memories. Sabrina stood by the porch, her arms folded, wearing a smile too calm for the chaos behind her. "Deep clean," she said. "Old things were taking up space." I looked at my son Daniel, who stood beside her, eyes fixed on the ground. I took a slow breath and whispered, "Then I'll clean out what no longer serves me." I reached for my phone. My hands didn't tremble. For 40 years, I scrubbed office floors and polished glass doors before sunrise. My hands still remember the smell of ammonia and lemon polish. Every extra shift, every blister built the yellow house behind me. It wasn't just a building. It was proof that sacrifice could bloom into something solid. When Daniel married Sabrina, I wanted to believe in family over fear. They were young, struggling to save for a place of their own. So I offered them the upstairs floor, told them they could stay until they got on their feet. I never changed the deed. I kept it in my name, folded inside a file marked security. The house on Sycamore Street was my pride, the center of every holiday, every birthday candle. I believed generosity would keep us close. I was wrong. Sometimes kindness feeds the hunger of those who only take, never give. When I opened the front door, the smell of new paint and bleach replaced the warmth I used to know. The living room, once full of family photos, was now a showroom of spotless emptiness. My wedding portrait was gone, the one Daniel used to dust for me every Sunday when he was little. Sabrina appeared from the hallway, her hair perfectly styled, a diamond glinting on her finger. "You're back earlier than expected," she said, her tone light, rehearsed. Then she gestured toward the staircase. "We needed your room for the baby. Hope you don't mind." Outside, I saw my belongings stacked beside the bougainvillea. Boxes labeled in neat handwriting, old dishes, books, Ellen's clothes. A lifetime reduced to storage. I turned to Daniel. He couldn't meet my eyes. "It's just temporary, Mom," he murmured. "Until we finish rearranging." I nodded, pretending to understand. But I saw the truth in Sabrina's satisfied smile. She wasn't rearranging furniture. She was rearranging ownership piece by piece. Sabrina led me to what she called a quiet corner. It was the old utility closet beside the laundry room. A single cot stood against the wall, a thin blanket folded on top. The light came from a dangling bulb on a wire. The air smelled of detergent and mildew. "You'll have privacy here," she said, as if she were offering me luxury, "just until the nursery is ready." I touched the wall, rough and cold beneath my palm. I could still hear the hum of the washing machine, the rhythm of someone else's life happening on the other side. That night, lying on the cot, I whispered to the darkness, "Words without power are just noise." And I promised myself mine would gain power soon. It was past midnight when I gathered the courage to knock on Daniel's door. The house was silent except for the faint sound of a baby mobile playing somewhere in the nursery that didn't exist yet. He opened the door halfway, his face pale in the dim light. "Mom, please," he whispered, "don't start anything tonight. Sabrina's been stressed. Let's just keep the peace." Keep the peace. The same words his father used to say when bills piled up and I had to choose between groceries and gas. "Daniel," I said softly, "this is still my home." His eyes darted away. "Just for now, Mom. Please." Then he closed the door. The sound of that latch felt louder than any argument. The next morning, I opened the small notebook I kept since the day I bought the house. Every bill, every receipt, every dollar saved had its place there. Numbers had always told the truth, even when people didn't. The balance should have been just over $60,000, but the latest statement showed something different. $45,000 gone, withdrawn slowly over 8 months. Small transfers at first, then larger ones labeled remodel, baby room, furniture. I scrolled through the bank app. Miami hotel, designer store in Chicago, an online purchase for a $3,200 stroller that hadn't even arrived. When I asked Daniel about the charges later that day, he blinked like he didn't understand. "Sabrina said it was all for the house," he stammered. "The house I built. The one I was now sleeping in a closet inside of." I closed the notebook gently, the way one closes a wound before it starts bleeding again. At dawn, I walked next door to Ada Dorsey's house. She'd been my neighbor for 20 years, a woman who believed that biscuits and honesty could fix most problems. The smell of butter and coffee filled her kitchen, just like always. She looked at me and frowned. You look tired, Ellen. You sleeping in that closet they gave you? I tried to smile, but my lips trembled. Out aside and placed a cup of coffee in front of me. You deserve better than that, she said. Then she lowered her voice. I saw a truck out front last week. They were loading your mahogany furniture, the ones from your dining room. Sabrina was standing there counting cash. Her words burned hotter than the coffee. I didn't answer. I just nodded. The storm had already started, and I was done pretending not to feel the rain. 2 days later, I sat in the quiet office of Alan Whitaker, the attorney who had handled my husband's will years ago. He still kept the same walnut desk and the same habit of cleaning his glasses before every serious conversation. I need to know if my son can throw me out of my own house, I said. My voice didn't shake this time. Alan looked over the papers. I handed him the deed, the mortgage records, the proof of payments. After a few minutes, he nodded slowly. Ellen, the property is 100% in your name. You never transferred ownership. Daniel and his wife are tenants at will. They have no legal right to evict you. He leaned forward. We'll do this properly. First, secure your bank accounts. Second, document every missing item in sale. Third, issue a notice. Either they vacate in 30 days or sign a formal lease and repayment plan for the money taken. I watched his pen move across the page, turning my anger into action. For the first time in months, I felt my lungs fill completely. When he looked up, he smiled. You're not powerless, Ellen. You're just surrounded by people who forgot who you are. Sabrina invited me to dinner that weekend, saying she wanted to clear the air. Her parents, Charles and Vivian Hill, were there too, both dressed like they were attending a business meeting rather than a family meal. The table gleamed under the chandelier, set with china I didn't recognize. As soon as we sat down, Vivian smiled thinly. Ellen dear, we've been talking. At your age, managing a property can be overwhelming. Sabrina told us you've been exhausted. Maybe it's time to consider a retirement community. Charles nodded. It's what's best for everyone. I sipped my water and waited for Daniel to speak. He didn't. His fork trembled slightly against the plate. Then Sabrina added sweetly, we'd handle everything. Bills, maintenance, even your bank errands. You'd have no stress. I placed my napkin on the table. You mean I'd have no control? The room went silent. I let the quiet stretch before I continued. This house, my house, is not a burden. It's my home, and as of this week, it's protected by the law. Daniel looked up, startled. Sabrina's face lost its color. I'll be sending you documents tomorrow, I said calmly. You'll either sign a lease or find somewhere else to live. No one moved. Even the clock on the wall seemed to stop. That night, I heard a soft knock on the door of the utility closet. When I opened it, Daniel stood there, barefoot, his face pale and wet with regret. Mom, he whispered, I didn't mean for things to go this far. Sabrina she said it was temporary. Temporary turned into theft, I said quietly, and silence makes you part of it. He lowered his head. I was scared of losing her. I thought keeping quiet would keep peace. Peace built on lies doesn't last, Daniel. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. What do you want me to do? Tomorrow morning, I said, we go to the lawyer. We'll set rules, payments, and boundaries. If you both agree, you can stay. If not, you leave. Daniel hesitated, then whispered, Okay, Mom. For the first time, I saw the boy I raised, the one who used to fix the mailbox after school. He was still in there, just buried under fear. The next morning, before the lawyer meeting, I collapsed in the kitchen. A sharp pain shot across my chest, stealing the air from my lungs. The last thing I remember was Ada's voice calling my name as everything faded into white. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, the smell of antiseptic and the steady beeping of a heart monitor filling the room. Dr. Annika Patel stood beside me, calm but firm. You had a mild heart attack, she said. Stress did this. Your body has been whispering for a long time. You just stopped listening. I turned my head toward the window. Rain streaked down the glass, soft and endless. Dr. Patel placed a hand on my shoulder. You need rest, Ellen. Real rest. The kind that doesn't include people who keep taking from you. For the first time in years, I didn't argue. I simply nodded. She was right. Healing would require distance from pain, from manipulation, and from my own silence. When I opened my eyes again, two familiar faces were waiting beside the bed, my daughter Julia and my younger son Marcus. Julia's briefcase rested on the floor, still dusted with rain. Marcus held a paper cup of coffee that had gone cold. Mom, Julia said gently, why didn't you call us sooner? I didn't want to worry you, I whispered. You both have your own lives. Marcus shook his head. You are our life. His voice cracked halfway through the sentence. Julia leaned forward, her tone steady. We'll take care of this. You're not alone anymore. Something in me loosened then, a tension I'd carried for months. I felt the weight of love return, not the kind that takes, but the kind that stands beside you when everything else collapses. That night, I slept without fear for the first time in months. A week later, I returned home, but not to surrender, to reclaim. Julia sat across from Daniel and Sabrina at the dining table, the same table where I'd once served Sunday dinners. This time, it held legal documents instead of food. Alan Whitaker read each page aloud. The new lease stated that Daniel and Sabrina would pay fair market rent of $1,200 a month, plus $1,000 monthly toward the $45,000 they had withdrawn. If they missed 2 payments, eviction would follow automatically. Sabrina's smile was gone. She signed her name without meeting my eyes. Daniel hesitated, then looked at me. I'll pay it back, Mom. All of it. I nodded. This isn't revenge, Daniel. It's order. The room was quiet except for the scratching of pens. For the first time, boundaries had weight. They weren't invisible lines anymore, they were walls built from respect and consequence. And I had no intention of letting anyone break them again. 2 weeks later, a knock echoed at my apartment door. When I opened it, Vivian Hill stood there, clutching a thick envelope. She looked different, tired, almost smaller. May I come in, Ellen? She asked quietly. I nodded, though caution tightened my chest. She placed the envelope on the table and sighed. You deserve to know the truth. Inside were printed credit card statements, thousands of dollars in debt, designer stores, spas, restaurants, all in Sabrina's name. At the back were screenshots of messages between Sabrina and her mother. Vivian's voice trembled as she explained. She lied to us too. About the baby, about everything. She said you forced her to use your money. I believed her. Until I found these. I stared at the papers, feeling neither triumph nor anger, just an old, quiet sadness. Vivian's eyes glistened. I'm sorry, she's my daughter, but what she's done, she'll have to face it now. For once, we both sat in silence, 2 mothers grieving the same truth from different sides. The next evening, Daniel arrived unannounced. His eyes were hollow, and his voice carried the weight of something final. Mom, he said, I need the truth. Sabrina followed behind him, arms crossed, her expression defiant but cracked around the edges. Vivian's envelope lay open on the coffee table. I didn't move to hide it. Daniel saw the papers, the screenshots, the debts. His face drained of color. Tell me it isn't true, he whispered. Sabrina rolled her eyes. Those aren't your business. Mom's exaggerating again. Are you pregnant? He asked quietly. Her silence was louder than any scream. Answer me, he said again, his voice breaking. I thought I was, she stammered. Then I lost it early. I slid the hospital report across the table. No record of pregnancy, no appointment, no loss. Daniel stared at her for a long time, then sat down, hands trembling. So all of it, the money, the baby, the house, it was a lie. Sabrina's lips quivered, but no words came. He turned to me, tears spilling freely. I'm sorry, Mom. I let her turn me against you. I reached for his hand. You let yourself forget who you are, but remembering is a start. Sabrina stood by the door, silent, realizing the walls she built with deceit were finally closing in. When they left, the apartment felt impossibly quiet, but for the first time that silence didn't hurt. It felt like peace returning home. The following month moved like slow thunder, steady, unavoidable. Daniel filed for divorce within a week of that confrontation. The truth unraveled quickly once the lawyers got involved. Vivian provided her statement, confirming her daughter's lies. Sabrina tried to fight back, but the evidence was too heavy, her charm too thin. The judge's decision was swift. Daniel kept his job, his name, and his dignity. Sabrina walked away with nothing but her debts. When the final papers were signed, Daniel came to see me. He didn't say much, just handed me a check, his first repayment. I saw the effort in his eyes, the shame and the promise coexisting. I took it and smiled softly. This isn't about the money, Daniel. It's about learning what's worth keeping and what never was. The apartment I moved into wasn't large, but it was mine. 2 sunlit windows, pale blue curtains, and a row of plants that Ada helped me pick out. Every morning I opened the blinds, let the light in, and made coffee strong enough to remind me I was still standing. I started keeping small routines, watering the plants, reading the paper, writing in my ledger again, this time not to track loss but progress. Each month, Daniel's payment arrived on time. He called occasionally, never out of guilt, but to check in, to listen. One afternoon he asked if he could visit. I said yes, but gently added, only if you come as my son, not as someone seeking forgiveness. He laughed softly. I think I'm learning the difference. And for the first time, I believed him. A year later, I walked past my old house on Sycamore Street. The paint had been freshened, the porch rails gleamed white again, and my garden was alive with new blooms. Daniel stood by the fence, tending to the roses I had planted decades ago. He turned, smiling shyly. They still grow best when you talk to them, he said. I stepped closer, touching a petal between my fingers. Maybe they just remember the voice that planted them. That evening, Julia and Marcus joined us for dinner. Laughter filled the house again, not forced or heavy, just real. As the sun set behind the roof, I realized I hadn't lost a home at all. I had reclaimed something greater myself. When people ask how I survived losing everything, I tell them this: I didn't lose everything. I lost illusions, and sometimes that's the only way to see clearly again. If you ever find yourself in my shoes, remember these things. Keep your ownership documents, current deeds, wills, and accounts. Never gift property without understanding what you're giving away. Kindness without protection invites exploitation. Keep separate finances. Generosity should come from the heart, not from open passwords. Photograph your home, your belongings, your life proof is peace of mind. And finally, understand this: boundaries don't destroy love, they define it. The people who truly care for you will never need you to shrink to stay. Healing doesn't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it arrives wearing armor and teaches you how to stand again. If this story found you in a difficult moment, take this with you: dignity isn't handed to us. We build it, protect it, and defend it with quiet choices every day. If you believe that too, give this video a like, share it with someone who needs courage tonight, and tell me where you're watching from. I read every comment.